So we're standing in the old Mount Zion Baptist Church graveyard. The land for this church was deeded from John Watkins to the Mount Zion Baptist Church in 1835. And so I wanted to do a quick count and see if I could identify as how many graves might be out here. We've definitely got one there that's a large indention. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we've got 6 over here. So we're at 6, 7, and 8. Then 9 right here. 10 on the other side of this rock wall. We've got 11 here, and I don't believe that this is the right place for this headstone. I think it's been moved over the years. In fact, what is this? This may be a footstone for... This is probably a footstone. I wonder where the other... There it is. There's the other piece of it right there. Let's see if it's... Yeah, this is a footstone for the child Watkins here. So that is the... There we go. So this is the foot of the grave. So the headstone should be placed right here. It's just for some reason been moved over the years. All right, so the child Watkins was grave 11. We've got grave 12 there. And then we know that 13 is right over there. I see an indention. These will be very easy. We've got 14, 15, and 16, 17, 18, 19, and 20. Then we had indentions over there. I believe that there's, what is that? There's 21, 22, 23, 24, and 25, 26, 27, 28, 29. So we've got over 30 burials here. So we've got 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, and 35. So at least 35 burials here. I'm sure that I have missed some. But for an area that looks like it's in the absolute middle of nowhere, that's quite a few people buried here. I was scouting the area around the graveyard to try to find where the church might have been. And in looking at the layout of the land and terrain, this area here was just about the best spot that I could find that looked like it might have at one time been smooth enough to put a church here. But let me show you a problem with the land here. So as I looked around for a place that a church might have been, again, this seemed like a good place, up on top of a hill and relatively flat in some spots. You obviously can see big slopes there, but this area right through here looked flat enough that a building might have been here. But if we look at the ground here, I can see why there might have been a problem farming here. Again, this land for this church that used to be here, this 1 acre, was donated over by the owner of this land. So we know that this land was all around here was owned and farmed. But if we look, there are so many rocks throughout the landscape. Great if you want to build a filled stone chimney or a foundation for your early settlement log cabin. Not so great if you came here to farm this land. The land is also extremely uneven. We're on the top of a hill here. You can see it takes a sharp dive down into the woods there. We're just on the other side of Big Laser Creek and just on the Talbot County side of the Flint River. This area was, of course, opened up for European settlement in 1826. Over on the other side of the Flint River is a little bit older, as that area was settled earlier. All right, so now we're going to head back up the road, and I'm going to show you the remains of an early settlement home site, and again tell you my theory on why people may have come here and then left. All right, so just back up the road here, I'm going to take you to an old home site that's here. But first, we have got to look at the amount of rock that is in this land. This pile of stone here was created from clearing fields. As farmers would plow up fields and pull these rocks out of the ground, they would make stone piles. So we've got quite a few stone piles around here from where someone was trying to make something out of this land many years ago. And before we get to the home site over here, do you want to look at this rock formation? If you look down here, you can see a little bit of the old road bed. That looks like it was pretty much nothing more than a wagon trail. And if you watched the previous video, you'll know that the roads going to this area were described in the 1970s as being accessible by Jeep only. In other words, four-wheel drive only roads, and you can really tell that when you discount the more modern road over there and look at these old trails. But if we go up here, you can see the sheer amount of rock coming out of the ground here. And if you look on across this hill, you can see all of the rock just scattered about. But if we come over here, we'll find what looks like the remains of a modest early settlement home site. First, we've got to take in the view of this yard here with this magnificent old oak tree standing there. Looks like the only really old tree around here. Everything else is relatively new growth. And just behind this oak tree, the remains of what appears to be a fieldstone chimney, which I find absolutely incredible to believe that somebody chose this as their home site. I also have to say I've been to many, many home sites, and this one has to be one of the creepiest and loneliest feelings I've ever experienced at an old home site here. And we can see the stacked stone chimney pile over there. There's only a few stones left that appear to be foundation. I see stacked stones at the base of this tree that appear to have been possibly foundation stones, and another one right there that could have been foundation stones, but there's so many rock that's scattered throughout here, it's hard to tell for sure. So this appears to be the remains of a stacked stone chimney, and I've got several theories of this. I believe that this was probably a home site, but at the same time it almost looks like this chimney was never quite finished. You can see it's fallen forward and the rock is scattered about, but that doesn't quite look like enough to make a full chimney. We can see that it was stacked up. The more that I look at this, the more I wonder if this was indeed a home site. I know that there were certainly several around here in these woods, but looking at this one, I wonder if this may not have been something else. I do believe it was stacked to be a chimney, but I wonder if this may have been a syrup kettle, or maybe a blacksmith's station in the field. Because while there are a lot of scattered rock throughout here, it just doesn't look like enough to have been a chimney. So kind of a mystery here. Also, if you look here, these rocks appear to be laid out in a big square or big rectangle throughout here. Not a grave, but just interesting stacking of rocks, that more so than just a pile from clearing the field. We've also got this stack right here. That I believed may have been a foundation. If you look, it does line up with the back of the chimney, but it's the only thing that looks like that, other than possibly that right there, that looks like evidence of a foundation. And obviously these rocks have been stacked here for a very, very long time. So whether it indeed be for a home site or something else was going on, there was obviously human settlement right here. They were doing something with this chimney stack right here. We just don't know what exactly. Hard for me to say, to confirm or deny that this is a home site. Look at the size of that nail driven into this tree. But again, that leads to the question of where did the people go? Less than a half mile up the road, we have a very old church graveyard that dates back to 1835 that was evidently the church moved only 2 years later in 1837. Now again, this area was opened up for European settlement in 1826. And this land being in such close proximity to the Flint River and the other side of the Flint River, which was settled by Europeans prior to 1826. That would be a reason that this land west of the Flint River, when westward expansion happened and people started settling here, why it might have been settled so quickly and so early on was because of its close proximity to what was already settled just on the other side of the river. Plus we know that there were people trading with the Creek people who were on this land prior to 1826 and crossing over the Flint River and coming here to trade. And certainly the Creek people had established homes, farms here as well prior to that. So the early settlers, the 1826 settlers, come here just across the Flint River. Everybody gets a 202 acre land lot, and these people don't see this land before coming here. There's not like modern times we have a real estate agent and you look at the land. They come here when they receive the land lottery, they settle here and then try to make a living here. Some people are successful and some people are not. Some people have great pieces of land and other people have land that, well, looks like this. Again, as we walk up the hill across from our mystery chimney over there, we have land that's just covered in rock. So with some 30 odd souls buried down there, many home sites that are evident here. But all of these home sites that are evident around here, such as this fieldstone chimney back here and others that I've seen that you guys will see on future videos, none of them appear to be much later than early settlement times. They're all fieldstone. If there is brick construction in it, it is that very early brick that would have been handmade out of clay sourced around here. So I think that these people came here and this land was just so hard to work that they wound up leaving shortly afterwards. And only the most unlucky people stayed here and continued to try to carve out a life in these hills. And it's very interesting. I think it adds to the haunting feeling that I feel throughout here, because there is a very desolate and loneliness here at this site, all of these sites. And I think it's interesting anytime that you come to a place like this where it looks like there have never been people, but there were, and then they left. And I think that leaves a bit of sadness here. And throughout all of these woods, you'll find these rock piles where people were farming here and trying to clear the land. What's interesting is this area here doesn't even look like it was ever timbered for pine. Now across the road it is obviously was timbered for pine at one time, but over here it was obviously cleared. Nothing but young growth trees here, but not even planted in pine. And if we keep going over this way, we can take another look at the old road bed, which is very interesting. All right, so hard to imagine, but this is an old road bed that leads beside this hill, absolutely covered in rock. Now some of the roadbed here has been disturbed by some modern grading of the new road right over there, but we can still see it pretty well. And obviously a very narrow road here. And if you can imagine having to travel down a road like this in a horse and buggy, or even in the earliest of automobiles, while people were still living back here. You can see what a hard time you would have just getting in or out of this area, in or out of your home. And of course, with the trees growing up in the roadbed, it's a little bit harder to see it, but if we just follow along with the bank, it comes down, flattens out, and then another bank where it was graded down. And again, this incredible amount of rock over here. We certainly have it good today that we don't have to travel this old road to get back here, and we can use the modern dirt road. I mean, that's just incredible to be able to see that old roadbed there and imagine these people having to travel that. And you can understand why the cemetery that we visited on the previous video would have become lost and forgotten deep in these woods if your only route is that road. Thankfully today we can venture out to these places in a somewhat smooth gravel road. Still need some four-wheel drive to get out here. All right, so I hope you have enjoyed this video. This is kind of a scouting mission for me today. I do intend on bringing Dan the historian back out here with me, so he can give you guys his take on some of this stuff. But being able to get out here and see, like the old cemetery on the previous video, the old mystery home site there, and be out in the literal middle of nowhere today, seeing signs of settlement nearly 200 years ago, never ceases to amaze me. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.